Hello, my darlings. A lot of you have been wondering where I've been for the last 2.5 weeks, and I have basically been completely and totally absent from the internet. I've been commenting back on YouTube, like pressing comments, the last like 24 hours. That's really the first I've actually been on the internet, aside from like my personal Facebook, in the last 3 weeks. And that is because I have a life-threatening illness. Yes, a life-threatening illness. I figured that I should just make a video instead of a really long text post on every social media I have explaining where I've been. I just figured that this would be a lot easier and a lot less effort for me, since this is honestly, right now, when I'm making this video right now, is the first time I have been out of bed in about 15 days. This is honestly the first time I've had real person clothes on in the past 2, almost 3 weeks, and it feels weird. Okay, so everything started around last Friday. 2 Fridays ago actually, wow. I went home from school early because I wasn't feeling well. Saturday I felt a little better, so I went out and talked to my grandma on the phone. We talked about like past lives. I'm actually going to make a video on that because I had a really weird experience that I want to share with you guys. But I talked to my grandma and stuff, and I was fine, but then I went home and I just didn't feel well, and then on Sunday is when my fever started, and I had 103 fever for a long time until it started to go higher. But I had literally no other symptoms at all. It was just fever, really, really high fever, and so we didn't think it was anything that like needed to go to the hospital or the doctor or anything, because it was just a fever. Like, I wasn't coughing, I wasn't sneezing or throwing up or anything. I just had a fever, but don't worry. All those fun symptoms I listed did happen. So I just stayed in bed and I like decided to just let the fever burn out. 4 days passed, I still had 103, 104 fever. I was delirious, I was overly medicated on like over-the-counter stuff. So I went to the doctor, and my doctor, I fucking hate. I hate her. Not just because of this, but I have never liked her. My mom never listened to me and wanted to change doctors until now, so I guess that's one good thing that came out of this. But my doctor literally doesn't care about her patients at all, and she just wants to like do her, like she wants to have her own life and like be out of the office as soon as possible and like not prescribe things or prescribe too many things. She looked at me and was like, "Whoa, she has the flu," and we were like, but no. And so we did all these tests, and like nothing came back positive at all. And so she was like, "Just go home." And I was like, okay. And at this point, I was coughing a lot. Like, I was coughing my lungs out. Like, she listened to my lungs, and she said that there was nothing wrong with me. And so I was like, okay, great. It's just some weird fever thing. It'll go away. Okay, well, the next day, I got in the shower, and I had a really high fever, so this probably wasn't a good idea, but I got in the shower and I turned it up as high as it could go because I was freezing cold and shivering and dying and not feeling well. I turned it up as high as it could go, and I passed out. So we went to the hospital, and we went there, and they did all these tests on me. I was still coughing up my lungs, and they came back to me and they said, "Guess what? You have double pneumonia." So I had pneumonia in each lung, and just for those of you who don't know what double pneumonia is, I learned a lot through this illness process. And I had a high fever, double pneumonia. At this point, actually though, it wasn't that bad, and I could still kind of breathe a little bit. The doctors decided to send me home that night, which was a mistake. I was coughing so much that by the time we got to the top, I was coughing up blood. That was my first experience with coughing up blood. So that was fun. And then we got to the car, we went home, I was fine, I got in bed, I slept. Then the next day is, I guess, when it started to get really bad. My mom came in, and I was sleeping the entire day that day. My mom came in and she told me my skin looked gray. I was coughing so much that she asked me if I needed to go to the hospital and wanted to deal with the whole hospital ordeal. I was kind of traumatized from the night before because I really hate hospitals. When I was younger, I had a brain tumor, and so I spent basically an entire year of my life in a hospital, and so I really don't like them. So she came to me though, and I said, "Mom, you need to come check on me in the middle of the night to make sure I'm still breathing." And she said, "No, that's it. We're calling an ambulance. So we called an ambulance, and they came and got me. It was my first ambulance ride. The people in it were really, really nice. They gave me movie suggestions. They gave me a breathing treatment, which if you haven't had one, they're kind of fun, actually, I think. It's kind of looks like a giant, like, bong. But they gave me a breathing treatment. It's like basically like salty mist, which is incredibly drying to your skin, I would later find out. So they gave me the salty mist, and then they took me to the hospital, to the ER, and they gave me another x-ray, and at this point it was like 11 at night, and as the night went on, I just got worse and worse and worse. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't use the bathroom on my own. I had to get, like, bedpans and stuff, which is really, honestly, the worst part of the illness. You know how bad you feel when you can't even use the bathroom on your own. But they did all these tests, and they finally admitted me. I was coughing so hard that I couldn't breathe. They gave me a nose cannula, a nasal cannula, which is like what you see with like old people or people with like CF or, I don't know, people with like lung problems who can't breathe. They have the like oxygen strip that connects to the tank. Yeah, I had that. And then, you know, I'm a mouth breather, so that didn't really work very well, because I basically don't ever breathe out of my nose, and so I wasn't getting the oxygen, and because, by the time I was in my room upstairs, I had 104 fever and I couldn't breathe at all. They basically ended up just putting a mask on me, and they kept the mask on me the entire time I was in the hospital. I will put up pictures. And you know, they said that my case was really serious because there are very few people who have double pneumonia who aren't either under 10 years old or over like 50. And so I basically had an old person disease. The first night I was in there, I was so out of it. And honestly, I almost died. And since I couldn't breathe, my heart wasn't beating right. So they had all these monitors hooked up to me, but the first night I was in there, I honestly almost died, and I'm not saying that to be dramatic, but I could not breathe, and I remember very little from the first night. After I went up to my room, I remember very, very little of it. I do remember this, though. There was one nurse who tried to draw blood from my arm, and, here's my arm. And since I already had an IV in here, and I had an IV in this side, I had double IV, and I was so dehydrated that she couldn't find any of my veins. So I'll show you. She tried to draw from right here. I was like comatose until I felt that needle go in there. I sat up in the bed and I screamed at the top of my lungs for about 30 seconds straight. I think I scared all of the nurses to death. But I do believe that moment is when I almost died. That was really not fun. I was so malnourished, they wouldn't let me eat. They put, like I said, I had the double IV. They put a sack of fluids in my arm that made me have to pee every like 20 seconds, which is not good because I couldn't get up to pee. So, you know, I had basically no sleep. I couldn't eat. I was an emotional wreck because I knew I almost died. I had no like mental processing abilities because I was A, malnourished, and B, delirious from my fever. Like, I remember, I think the second night, one of the nurses came in and I think I sang her half of a Fleetwood Mac song. Oops. Like, she came in to check on me and my fever was really high. I think she was drawing blood from my arm and I'm 90% sure I sang her Gypsy. But it's okay. So then they started to do all of these tests on me to try to figure out what I had. They did this thing called a bronchoscopy because I couldn't get mucus up with my cough. So they did this thing called a bronchoscopy, which was honestly the worst experience I've ever had in my life. Where they put you on a table and they give you this like numbing spray that tasted like salty mint water, which is disgusting. Don't ever mix salt and mint. And they spray it in your nose, and they spray it in your throat, and then your nose, your throat, your nose, your throat, and they do that 12 times. And it really sucks because it numbs you to the point where you can't tell if you're breathing, which is really fucking scary when you have double pneumonia and you can hardly breathe anyway. But then they give you like this like super hallucinating drug, which was honestly awesome because it was the first piece I'd had in like 6 days. So they give you that, and then they go down into your lungs and they cut out pieces of tissue and they sample them and grow them in cultures to see if it's viral, bacterial, or fungal. And they're like, don't worry if you cough up blood. And so I coughed up copious amounts of blood for the next few days. I'm still coughing up blood, actually, and I've been out of the hospital for 4 days now. 3 days. 3.5 days. I also had to break my veganism, which was really sad because I have been vegan for 2 years. And I really love being vegan. I did. And it was really sad to me, but I have to stay non-vegan for at least a month. But I think I'm just gonna quit it because I had pizza. And I don't think I need to say anymore. Pizza's really good. I was so malnourished that there's no way I could stay vegan. Like, my albumin level or something was like 4 points lower than it needed to be. Because of my sickness and just because I really have not been taking care of myself this year. I've been so stressed out and so busy and so sad that I just really haven't had time to take care of myself. I've been forgetting to eat a lot, and then when I eat, I binge eat, and it's like not good. So that's probably a contributing factor as to why I got sick, but you know. So then they gave me like 8 different doctors and like 12 different nurses were assigned to me. One of my doctors was really hot, so that was good. And they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. All of the cultures turned up negative. So they had me on 12 antibiotics in my IV, and that was really not fun because, you know, different antibiotics affect you in different ways. I was throwing up, I was sweating, I was shivering, I was having mood swings, partially because of like my period too, which is everything is happening at once. And I was having mood swings and crying and eating and throwing up, and it was just really bad and nothing was helping. Turns out that I have atypical mycoplasmic pneumonia, which is also known as walking pneumonia, but that's the typical version of it. I have a mutation off of it, and so mine was like really, really bad. I still have a bunch of stuff in my lungs, I'm trying to get it out, but I am a lot better. Obviously I'm talking. There was a long time where I couldn't say anything just because, you know, my lungs were so full of crap that I would get winded when I was talking, when I said more than 4 words in a row. I can go back to school, hopefully next week. Fingers crossed. I'm about to kill myself. I'm so bored and, like, lonely. But I also am not talking to any of my friends because I just don't want to explain everything. And I think it'll be a lot easier to explain once I get back at school and once I talk to my doctor because I have an appointment this week. And I just think it would be easier for me to just tell everybody at once instead of recapping this traumatizing experience like 5 billion times, because honestly I'm about to cry right now just because I'm so emotionally exhausted from what I've been through, and I can't do this 5 billion times whenever someone asks me where I was the past week. And so I'm probably only going to tell the people that really matter to me, and the people who follow me on Tumblr and my YouTube subscribers are the people who do really matter to me, and like, I love you guys, and I just wanted to explain where I've been because like, I've gotten some really mean messages too that are like, your personal life should be second to your blog because you're allowed to dispute blog, and like, you're a banned blog, and people who run banned blogs need to know that like whatever they're going through is secondary to their blog, and their blog should take priority. And like, fuck you, honestly, fuck you. You have no idea what I've been through. I did post the first time I went to the hospital. I posted on Tumblr and I explained, but so much has happened since then that I just really felt like I needed to make a video to explain everything, and I have now done that, so go me. So I probably won't be the internet persona that I usually am for a while. I still have a lot I need to do, like take my medicine and do this thing. I can kind of make videos for the next week because it doesn't require a lot of work and I don't have to leave my house. I miss you. So talk to me, you know, now that you know what's going on with me. I feel like you guys can talk to me and I won't have to explain everything, so if you want to talk or you have any questions about what happened to me or if you went through something similar, let me know how you coped, because I am having a really hard time getting over this, and the fact, just knowing consciously that there were 2 or 3 separate occasions where I almost died is, you know, kind of mind-blowing to me and kind of jarring, I guess you could say. So thank you guys for hearing me out and watching this video. I hope it wasn't too boring. It's really long, but, you know, it's therapeutic, I guess, and it felt really good to get this off of my chest. So I will see you guys in my next video, and